Good day everyone. In this video I shall run us through the HMO claims module on HELA. So with the activation of this module on HELA, one shall find the HMO module by clicking on operations and navigating down to HMO. Here we have the ability to create a HMO profile. We have the ability to create HMO bills, create a HMO claims and have different various bills in it, send the HMO claims for approval, send the HMO claims to the respective HMO profile tied to that HMO claims, capture payment on the HMO claims, send to the financial team for financial posting, and then make reconciliation on that HMO claims. So all this shall be walked through in this video. So I shall start with creating a HMO profile. By navigating to HMO, then HMO profile, we have the ability to create a HMO profile, select the HMO client, set the vetting rates, key reasons, contact info, email addresses. This is comma separated to send to different email addresses tied to this particular HMO client, HMO profile. And then we have this information on calculating interest on the bills that are tied to this particular patient. I shall explain that further in the video. So having created the HMO profile, navigating to new HMO bill, one can create HMO bills. We have currently two ways in which you can create those bills. The first is using CSV. Here we upload a CSV file and there's a button to download a template on which that CSV file you are importing should conform to. It should conform to this format right here, and then you can then go ahead to upload those bills. Alternatively, you could use the spreadsheet option. So for this video, I shall be going with this approach. So I'm going to be creating two. Let me choose someone. I'm going to be creating two HMO bills here for the purposes of this video. Disk 1, quantity is 25, cost price 500, 505. Approval code, I'm going to leave all that blank. I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible so this video isn't too long. Notes on diagnosis, caregiving, store, and then remark 1, staff responsible. So I'm just going to duplicate this line and then change basic things. Let me set this price to 30, big price to 410, selling price 420, and then I'm just going to leave everything okay. Remark to 2. So I can click on this preview and save changes to see a preview of what I have inputted so far. With our satisfaction, we can then go ahead to save those claims. So these are the two HMO bills I just created, number 1 and number 2. Navigating down to HMO bill states, here we have the different states in which a HMO bill can be in. If I navigate to draft, I shall also see the two no, not draft, approved. Okay, I shall see the two new HMO bills I just created. So there's a settings on HELA that enables us to determine what state the HMO bill should go into. If this settings is set to approved, anytime HMO bills are created, they are automatically moved to approved. Else, if they are set to draft, it goes to draft, in which an approval process shall be carried out to move it to the approved state. But given my current settings, they are already in the approved state. So I shall then go ahead to create a HMO claim. So navigating to HMO claim bill, we can then create a HMO claims. So I selected the HMO profile or the HMO clients, and I shall see all pending bills that have been yet to be tied to a claims here. I shall see them here. So these are the two new bills I just created. I shall select them. You could select as many as you want. You could select as many as you want. You could use Control A, or haven't selected them, you can then come here to fill and then put in a remark and then save. So here we have status to help us determine if this HMO claims I'm about creating should go to the approved state or should go to the draft state. So at the point of, if depending on one's capability, you have the option of setting this to approved. But if you don't have that capability, this will you won't see this button here, and this will automatically move to draft. And then when you save, it lives here. If I navigate to HMO claim states under draft, I shall see the HMO claims I just created. But had I chosen approved in the status, it shall come here under approved here. So since now it is in the draft state, I can then send for approval. So depending on your access rule, and need I mention all these buttons here, all the actions we see here, they are all access controlled. If you don't have the capability, you would not see them. So likewise, these buttons have those access configurations. You could approve this particular claims immediately, and it doesn't, that is the approval process. That's all there is to it. Or you could, submit for approval, and then it goes through the ELA approval workflow module, HMO claims approval. So this is what I just sent for approval. Upon reviewing, whoever is responsible for approving this can view. If you also have the access, you could skip certain persons and send to another desk. Then upon the last stage of the approval, which is this, it moves to the approved state. So before clicking yes, if I come to submitted, I can see this is my pending approval HMO claims. Clicking yes moves it to approved. Now it is now under approved. So at this point, I can then send or submit these particular claims to the HMO. Clicking on that button, shows me some fields to fill in and then send. So this sends an attachment to the email addresses specified for this particular, or for the particular HMO clients tied to this HMO claims. So now that the HMO claims is submitted to the HMO, that is only when we can capture payments on the HMO claims module. Excuse me. So I shall navigate to capture payments. Then this is the HMO claims I have been working on. This is the HMO claims I just submitted to the HMO. So at the point of submitting that button, at the point where the HMO have received the HMO claims and they've made some payments or whatnot, that is only when, or that is when we can capture payment on those HMO claims. So if it has not been submitted to the HMO, you cannot capture payments. So here you have the opportunity, or you have the privilege, to select multiple claims and then capture payments at once. You could mark as completed, or it could go through the Hellas Finance module, capture a comment, transaction ID, and then you could go ahead to process those selected. So the two items I selected comes here for you to set the amounts and whatnot. So very quickly, I shall select a debit account. By default, the total amount of that particular claims is inputted here, but then you have the luxury of um, in case the HMOs didn't pay completely, they paid 20,000 instead of 25. This paid complete. You can then reduce and whatnot. Fill in VAT discounts, departments, acknowledged by date of payment. So this date of payment here, before explaining that, there's also a settings to determine if the payments category should show or not. So if this particular settings is activated, it hides the payments category on this particular spreadsheet. The payments category helps to tell if the payment is early, if the payment of this particular claim is early, or it's on schedule, or it's late, or it's whatnot. So if this particular settings is not activated, you would have the luxury of selecting it yourself. This is early, this is not early. But if it is activated, the categorization of these HMO claims to being early or not, or being on schedule, is calculated automatically. So it uses the date of submission, the date in which this particular claims, this number one claims, was submitted to the HMO, and the dates captured here, whatever dates I put here. So the difference in these days between these dates helps determine, or helps categorize these claims, if it is early or not. Um, I shall quickly go back here to explain something. So at the point of creating a HMO profile, scrolling down, there is a field here that says number of days for processing payments. This number of days for processing payments also affects the categorization of the payments category of these claims, if it is early or not. So whatever value we put here gives an offset to making this comparison. So between the comparison is between the date of submission and this field here, whatever value we input here. So setting here to 5 helps, um, you know, increases this in when making the comparison, increases this date, to +5, and then helps tell if it is early, if it is on schedule, if it is late, or if it is, in the different categories. Um, so we have the payment advised by, payments advice receipt, and date of final payment. Here we have the opportunity to send it for approval before hitting the finance team to make the financial posting. I shall just skip that and then go ahead. So now my HMO claims, this HMO claims batch has been sent to the finance team, because these are HMO claims here. If I navigate to HMO claims and navigate to paid in full, we shall see that there was one who I did not change the amount due. That was this, and there was another in which the payment was different. Yes, this. So the amount due here was 25,000, and I inputted 20,000. On the finance part, um, operations, navigating to operations, finance, and then view transactions. Here we shall see the posting we made, or the request to post here. So this was the one I sent. You can see the amount 20,610. These are these are the two HMO claims. Whoever is responsible for making this approval and to make this posting can then go ahead to approve. So back to the HMO claims module. Here, reconciliation can then be made on the bills of that particular HMO claims that was submitted. So if we remember, 125 out of 25,000, 2,000 was paid, and there was another in which out of 610, 610 was, it was paid completely. So say I am to reconcile this one with 610. Clicking on this reconcile button takes us to a module in which we can, make this reconciliation. Come on. Okay. So here we have 4 bills in this HMO claims. So out of the 610, I can then come here to specify how much was actually paid per bill. There are different validations carried out when you save this form. So if, okay, 1, 2, 3 was paid completely, this was partially paid, I can give a status to tell if it was paid in full or if it was, partially paid. This was partially paid. The reason can give here, okay, all the bills were accepted by the HMO except one, and the reason here it was no agree, and then you can then go ahead to save. So at this point we have three saved, 3 completed, or 3 fully reconciled bills, and we have 1 unreconciled. So we can see them here. Partially reconciled should be 1. So this, gives a breakdown of how we can make reconciliation on a particular claims having captured payments on it. And the last thing I shall talk about is the calculation of interest on HMO bills. So I shall navigate back to my HMO profile to see how these fields play a role in calculating these interests. So we have days bill overdue. Before that, calculation of interest is being done on the HMO bills after they have after they have hit the submitted to HMO state. So at the point where we create a bill, we send for approval, we approve, and we submit to HMO. At the point where we submit to HMO, that is the date in which the calculation of interest uses to determine if an interest should be calculated on this bill or not. So the days bill overdue, this field here helps determine if the dates in which the bill was submitted to, and mind you, if the HMO claims is still in the submitted to HMO state, that is only when calculation of interest will be applied. If the state has been changed from submitted to HMO, in that payment has been captured on that particular claims, then this calculation does not apply. It is when it is still in the submitted to HMO state, those bills are still in the submitted to HMO state and payments have not been captured on them. That is when the calculation of interest applies. So for the days bill overdue, it uses the date of submission of that particular HMO claims and the particular time in which this, okay, before that there is a background process on Hela that runs periodically to calculate this interest. So if it uses the date in which the bill was submitted to the HMO and the date in which that particular check to calculate interest is being carried. So if the difference between those dates is greater than whatever value is here, that bill is flagged as overdue. If the difference between those two dates is greater than whatever is being inputted here, it is flagged as seriously overdue. This tells the type of interest that should be calculated, um, number of days for processing payment. This was when we were capturing payments. I explained this earlier. Days before interest starts calculating. So this is like an offset to the calculation of interest. So if, for example, we input 10 here and a bill is due to be calculated interest on today, because this is set to 10, it offsets it and waits until 10 days time to start calculating the interest on that payment. And this is the interval between period days. So if a bill was calculated interest on today, whatever value it here, it's before the interval between before when the next date to calculate interest on that particular bill is due, it uses this value to still know how long to wait to calculate the next interest on that particular bill. So I haven't said this. There's also a settings. What works here is once the calculation of interest is being done on a particular bill, it goes ahead to create a new bill and saves it in the pool of bills we have when we click on bills in the draft or approved state, depending on the general settings. So there's a settings on ELA to help determine if those bills should be added to the claims in which they came from, or they should just be out there. Then one can then go ahead to create a new claims for those bills. So that is the current state of the HMO claims module on HELA. Thank you.